In the rugged hills of ancient Israel, history's most famous underdog was about to step onto the world stage. He wasn't born a prince. He wasn't a general in a gleaming chariot. He was a teenage shepherd, armed with little more than a sling, a few smooth stones, and an unshakable faith. Yet this is the boy who would not only bring down a giant, but would rewrite the destiny of an entire nation. David, a name synonymous with heroism, music, and divine favor. But behind the Sunday school stories and the magnificent statues lies a complex, often brutal story of betrayal, lust, political murder, and the heavy, bloody price of power. So, for the next 10 minutes, let's peel back the layers of myth to reveal the fascinating and often shocking reality of Israel's great warrior king. David's life begins far from the corridors of power, out in the fields, tending his father Jesse's sheep. This quiet time in the wilderness wasn't wasted. It forged two crucial skills that would define his life. The first was raw courage. He later claimed to have killed lions and bears with his bare hands to protect his flock. The second was music. He was a masterful player of the kinnor, a type of ancient lyre, a talent that would, ironically, be his ticket into the king's court. But the true turning point, the event that catapulted him from obscurity to fame, was his confrontation with Goliath, the champion of the Philistines, a giant of a man who terrified Israel's entire army. While King Saul and his soldiers trembled in fear, the young David saw something else, a direct insult to his God. This legendary showdown wasn't just a battle, it was a brilliant political maneuver. When King Saul offered David his own royal armor, David refused. By trusting in his simple sling and his shepherd's skill, David created a powerful narrative. It wasn't his strength but God's that would win the day. One stone, one perfectly aimed shot, one dead giant. The result was instant, explosive fame. But as David would soon learn, fame, especially in a paranoid king's court, is a very dangerous currency. King Saul, once David's patron, became consumed by a venomous jealousy. He saw the adoration the people had for David not as a blessing, but as a direct threat to his throne. The crowds chanted, "Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands." And with every cheer, Saul's paranoia grew. What followed was a massive, multi-year manhunt across the desolate wilderness of Judea. David, the celebrated hero of Israel, was now a fugitive, an outlaw running for his life. He gathered around him a band of misfits, debtors, and distressed men, about 400 of them, hiding out in the dark recesses of the cave of Adullam. You can think of it as ancient Israel's own version of a mercenary training camp, a brotherhood forged in desperation. During this time, something incredible happened. On two separate occasions, David found himself with a golden opportunity to end the chase. He snuck up on King Saul and found him completely vulnerable, asleep and unprotected. He could have killed him right there and claimed the throne, but both times he refused. He famously declared that he would never raise his hand against the Lord's anointed. This was a masterstroke of calculated piety. By sparing Saul, David wasn't just being merciful. He was demonstrating to all of Israel that he would not seize power by force. He would let God or fate remove the king, cementing his own image as the rightful divinely chosen successor. With Saul and his sons finally dead in a battle against the Philistines, David's path to the throne was clear, but it was still messy. He didn't become king overnight. First, he was crowned king over his own tribe of Judah, ruling from the city of Hebron. For 7 long years, a civil war simmered as Saul's remaining family retained control over the northern tribes of Israel. Only after a series of brutal political assassinations, some of which were conveniently beneficial to David, whether he ordered them or not, was he finally accepted as king over all 12 tribes. The nation was united under his rule. His first move as king was strategically brilliant. He set his sights on Jerusalem. At the time, it was a small, well-fortified city controlled by a tribe called the Jebusites, perched on a ridge that no Israelite tribe could claim. David conquered it, and instead of giving it to his own tribe, he declared it a neutral capital, the city of David. This masterstroke offended no one and united everyone. His next move was even more significant. He brought the Ark of the Covenant, the sacred chest believed to house the very presence of God, into his new capital. With this single act, Jerusalem was instantly transformed from a military outpost into the religious and spiritual heart of the nation. David was no longer just a king. He was a priest king, the undisputed leader of his people in both politics and faith. David's power was now at its zenith. He was the undisputed ruler of a unified, prosperous kingdom. But as history teaches us, absolute power can invite absolute catastrophe. The story of David and Bathsheba is the ultimate tale of royal corruption and the abuse of power. One evening, while his army was away at war, David was walking on the roof of his palace. He looked down and saw a beautiful woman, Bathsheba, bathing. Consumed by lust, he sent his messengers to summon her. He knew she was the wife of one of his most loyal soldiers, Uriah the Hittite. But it didn't matter. He slept with her. When Bathsheba sent word that she was pregnant, David's sin spiraled into a criminal cover-up. First, he tried deception. He recalled her husband Uriah from the battlefield, hoping he would sleep with his wife and thus obscure the child's true paternity. But Uriah was a man of fierce honor and loyalty. He refused to go home and enjoy comfort while his comrades were still fighting and dying in the field. David, now desperate, resorted to murder. He sent Uriah back to the front lines, carrying his own death sentence. It was a secret order to his general. Put Uriah in the front line where the fighting is fiercest, then withdraw from him so he will be struck down and die. Uriah, the loyal soldier, was abandoned and killed. David then took Bathsheba as his wife. He thought his crime was hidden. He was wrong. The prophet Nathan came to the palace and exposed David's sin with a powerful parable about a rich man who stole a poor man's only lamb. When David, filled with righteous anger, declared that the rich man deserved to die, Nathan pointed his finger and said, "You are the man." The judgment was swift and severe. The child born from their affair would die, and David's own family would be cursed with perpetual violence and betrayal. The curse Nathan spoke of took hold almost immediately, tearing David's own family apart from the inside. The violence he had inflicted on Uriah's family now echoed through his own palace. It began with his eldest son, Amnon, who became obsessed with his beautiful half-sister, Tamar. He lured her into his chambers and brutally raped her. David was furious when he heard, but he was paralyzed. He did nothing to punish his firstborn son. This inaction fueled the rage of Tamar's full brother, Absalom. Absalom was charismatic, handsome, and patient. He waited 2 long years, nursing his grudge. Then, at a feast, he had Amnon murdered in cold blood, avenging his sister's honor. But Absalom's ambition didn't end there. After a period of exile, he returned to Jerusalem and began to cunningly steal the hearts of the people, launching a massive revolt against his own father. David, the great king who had built the city, was forced to flee Jerusalem as his own son marched in to take his throne. Even in the midst of this heartbreaking civil war, David's love for his son remained. He famously commanded his generals, "Deal gently for my sake with the young man Absalom." But in the chaos of battle, Absalom was killed, his long hair caught in the branches of a tree. When the news reached David, he wasn't triumphant. He was shattered, publicly mourning the death of the son who had tried to kill him. David's reign lasted 40 years. He died an old man, leaving behind a unified, powerful nation and a secure capital that would become one of the most significant cities in human history. But his greatest personal legacy is perhaps the Book of Psalms. Many of these beautiful, raw, and emotional poems are credited to him. They reveal the full spectrum of his soul. from triumphant hymns of praise to the heartbreaking laments of a guilty sinner. So, what is the key takeaway from David's story? He was a deeply flawed but incredibly resilient man. He was a ruthless warrior who used foreign alliances, political marriages, and sheer force to build and stabilize his kingdom. He was a gifted poet who brought a new spiritual depth to his kingship. He was a terrible sinner who, when confronted, repented with dramatic, gut-wrenching honesty. His enduring title is A Man After God's Own Heart, not because he was perfect, far from it, but perhaps because when faced with his darkest actions, he always bowed, accepted the consequences, and turned back to his faith. The blood and the music, the lust and the loyalty, all these contradictions are what make King David one of history's most compelling and human figures. He didn't just build a kingdom, he established a dynasty that would shape the religious future of the world. From a humble shepherd to a flawed, magnificent king, David's story is a timeless reminder that even our greatest heroes are often our most complicated villains. If you were captivated by the untold complexity of King David, do us a favor and hit that like button. What other legendary figure from history has a dark side that needs to be exposed? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the shadows of history. Thanks for watching.